Hi, I'm Afton, and I'm an illustration grad. But last semester, I took a wheel throwing class and went from sucking to making some pretty cool stuff. I'm gonna show you all my whole semester's worth of progress, my final work, some things I learned, and how the class changed the way I think about work. Let's go. I'm bad at sticking to things. For instance, I finished this class that I'm about to tell you about in May of this year, and it is now the end of September. My problem is I get really excited in the beginning of a project, I think about the outcome, and I'm like, hell yeah, I want to sign up for that, and then I underestimate the amount of time and effort and mental energy things take. And so once I'm in the middle of something, I'm just like, damn, I wish I could just quit. And a lot of times I do. So that being said, whenever I saw that my school was offering a wheel throwing class that I could take to end off my senior year, I did not think twice about all of the work. I was just like, this sounds fun. I've always wanted to learn wheel throwing. One, because you look sexy wheel throwing and you get a cool cup out of it, like that is a win-win. Two, because it's 3D, and as an illustrator who tends to work a lot with digital work, I really wanted to start working with my hands and also just like seeing how I can translate my illustrative style into 3D objects. And third, because it's functional. Like, I think it's so cool that as a ceramicist, you can make things like cups and pots that you interact with every day, and that people can come into your apartment and be like, wow, that's a really cool pot. And you can be like, thanks, I made it. In the beginning of starting this class, I was so ready to just go in and start throwing all the cups and the vases and the bowls. But then the professor was like, Hope, slow down. You have to learn how to center first. And I was like, why? And he's like, well, because if you don't know how to center, you literally cannot make anything, because your piece will end up looking like this, all wibbly wobbly, and you can't pull up the walls or do anything without it just tumbling on itself. Centering is no easy feat. I spent 6 hours of class time that week just trying to center, and I started to use muscles that I didn't even know existed. I would come home and I would have to like work on my illustration homework, and I literally did not want to draw because my wrists hurt so bad. And I started to see everyone around me making progress on the actual project, which was to throw 25 cylinders, and I made nothing. So after the first week or so, I hit up my friend who's an amazing ceramicist and ceramics major, so she knows what's up. If this goes in my blog, what do you want to tell people?
Wear deodorant. Wait, bugs are cool. Bugs, so am I.
And that's
Follow
true.
Sophie Francoeur Art on Instagram.
True, do it. And she came into studio one day after class and gave me a one-on-one lesson on how to center and how to throw a cylinder. We did a little ghost moment, and then she gave me some tips and left, and I stayed for 3 extra hours, and after 3 hours, I made this. And also this. And then I was like, maybe this class isn't for me. And so I hit up the registrar later that week, and I was like, hey bestie, is it too late for me to drop this class? And the registrar hit me up the next day and was like, yeah, you can totally drop this class. You still have time. And right as I was about to tell her to kick me out, I started to feel sad. And I was like, I think I'm gonna regret this if I just leave. So I think what I'll do is try to stick it out. And if I really hate it or if I'm doing really bad, I'll just withdraw. So I decided to stay. So that leads us to the first project, which was throwing 25 cylinders. And after I decided to stick it out, funnily enough, things just kind of clicked a bit more, and I was able to throw, well, not 25, but 17. And I got to play around with glazes for the first time. My illustration style is very vibrant, and I was really excited to resemble that in my ceramic work. So I started doing my underglazing and my glazing with these really super fun, bright colors. But then whenever they came out of the kiln, I was like, why does it look like this? Why did it go from like a really happy, sunshiny day to just like darkness and sadness? And the professor was like, well, your piece is gonna look more dull. For one, because we're firing at cone 10, which is a very high temperature. So that's just gonna kind of like burn off a lot of the color. And number two is because we were firing at reduction, and that means that there's no oxygen in the kiln when the pieces are fired. And when you fire at reduction, you get a more like kind of dull look, whereas when you fire an oxidation, you get a lot brighter, vibrant look. And so I was like, can we possibly fire in oxidation? And he said, unfortunately, the class just fires at reduction because it's an elective class. And then I thought, no matter how good I get at ceramics, whatever I make in this class, I'm just not going to like as much. But that's all right, because at least I'll learn and I'll be able to apply that knowledge another time if I ever get to making ceramic stuff again. But with the cylinder project under my belt, I was ready to start exploring some more interesting forms, which was great because the cup project was next. And for this one, we had to make 20 cups. This is when things started to get a little more interesting. All of the projects that we did in the class would overlap because once you fire all your current projects, you start glazing them, and as you're glazing them, you start throwing the next project, and so on. And so it became a juggling act. And this project was honestly a turning point for me in the class because first off, in making a form that has a round interior, I had a lot of issues with like making it really nice and smooth. And 90% of the cups I made have these like little divots in them instead of just being round. Second issue is whenever you do go too far down into your cup or bowl or whatever, it makes trimming really hard. And trimming is something that we started to do in this project because we needed to put cool looking foots on our pieces. Trimming is something where I feel like I watch TikToks and people just put the really fun jazzy music over it. They look really like chill. It seems like a very like relaxing process. No, it is stressful. You can destroy a piece like that in the trimming process. I cannot tell you the amount of cups and bowls I have just trimmed straight through and they just have holes in them. And also just like once something is trimmed off, you're like, well, I just have to live with that. The way you hold your tools is very like, you have to be very precise or else things are gonna get trimmed unevenly, or a lot of times like my things would just start to be a little wobbly. And just also you have to recenter your leather hard piece onto the wheel upside down and put little clay knobs to hold it in place. And also the amount of times that I've been putting the knobs down, I just like stick my hand straight through the piece. It's rough out here. But no, what really was the turning point was that I got very behind. I only had 10 cups and 20 were due the next class behind. So I had the weekend to make 10 cups that were due in a few days. And I went in after school and stayed for 5 hours and was able to make 9 cups. However, I did end up putting my blood, sweat, and tears into them because as I was throwing, my hands were starting to get really dry from touching wet clay and putting my hand in the water. There was an AC vent right over where I was throwing at. I started to see like this red stuff go into my piece and I'm like, that's weird. And I looked around and I'm like, is there like a marker or paint that somehow got into the clay? No, it was me. It was my blood. My skin had cracked so much that I just started bleeding from multiple fingers. So that happened, and then I went into my backpack, threw on a waterproof Band-Aid, and then I kept throwing because I really had to get the assignment done. But it made me realize that to actually succeed in this class, I'd have to put in a lot more time than I thought I would need to. For the bowl project, we were assigned to make 15 bowls, but we were trying to glaze like all 20 or as many cups as we possibly could. And I was like, well, if I come in 2 hours before class and then stay an hour or two after class, then I can just work all on class days and work on my other homework on the weekends. Perfect, that's a great idea. But this became an issue in the realm of sustenance. Let me explain. I would wake up at 9 a.m. and eat breakfast, and then go to the studio at 11 a.m. And I had 2 hours to work before class actually started, from 11 to 1. And from 1 to 4 was the actual class, and then I'd stay an extra hour till 5 p.m. So by the time that I got home at 5:30, I would have gone 8.5 hours without eating food all day. And I started to become very cranky and angry and grumpy during the class, which does not, fun fact, does not help you when you're trying to do a difficult task. So by the time the bowl project finished up, I associated the class with just like anger and frustration, and I was just always ready to go home. At the very end of the bowl project, he announced that we could start oxidation firing, which honestly made all the negative feelings just leave my body because I was just so freaking excited to start using vibrant colors. And that brings us to the final project and the final chapter of the story, kind of. For the final, we got to make whatever we wanted, like literally whatever we wanted. And so I spent a good amount of time brainstorming different things I could make. I was thinking about candle holders or plant pots or a set of mugs. But what I ended up going with was a dining set, because all I could think about was the really aesthetic TikToks where people would have dinner parties with their friends and they would have the prettiest dining setup that I've ever seen. So I began to sketch out and draw this dining set, and I wanted it to be cowgirl themed because I feel like it'd just be a fun theme to work with. Nature and cow print and snakes and cactus. I sketched everything out and landed on a 22-piece dining set. And honestly, this little drawing right here is what kept me going through this entire project. I was so excited to birth this project into existence that I came in, honestly, anytime I could. I came in on weekends, I came in early to class. I even began skipping illustration thesis to work on this project because a lot of it was a learning curve. The first thing that I made for the project were the plates, which was a whole entire learning curve in itself because I had never made plates before, and it's not something he taught, but it's something that the professor gave me a one-on-one demo on, and I also watched this YouTube video here, which helped a lot. And throwing plates is just a whole nother animal on how to make them just like not go on the sides. We got 4 plates made. They're actually not too bad. Yeah, look at them. They're amazing. Thank you. It looks a little funky now, but then you trim it once it's leather hard. So those plates are turning into these plates at the top here. And also just the drying process, which again, with ceramics, is a whole nother thing.
But the reason why it's bouncing up and down like that is because it's drier on one side than the other. And so it's higher on one side.
I also threw the bento plates and hand built the insides. And then I started making the candle holders because I just think it's so classy. It is so classy to have candlesticks in your house or apartment. Like, that's all I wanted in life. I made 8 candle holders and I made them around an inch or so in diameter whenever I threw them because I'm like, yeah, that's big enough to hold a candle. And I also started my whole bowl, my regular bowls, and the bases. The whole bowl is something that I was trying to make all semester. At first, I wanted it to just be like a little like tea light holders, but then I was like, it could be like a fruit bowl, you know? I made this one here. Putting holes in this. I want to leave some good space between here because the past ones I made, I didn't put enough space and kind of crumbled. I'm just doing this while it's still wet because I've tried doing it while it's leather hard and it's really hard to cut out. And it was really thick. It did not look very good and just had very bad craftsmanship, but you know, it's what I had and I was ready to fire it until I picked it up and then I dropped it. Not onto the floor, but onto the counter. And I was just like, well, this is a sign from the universe that I must remake this. And so I went and I threw a new bowl, which wasn't doing so hot either, but luckily my professor came by and fixed it. Bowls are still the trickiest things for me. And the tray, it was hand built instead of thrown. I ended up making not everything, but most of the things, which was very surprising. And in the glazing process, I really wanted the vibrant colors, so I was gonna go with underglaze. However, I decided to just play it safe and use these crazy, like, bright and saturated glazes that we had. And the tray, I just was pressed for time. It was the day of the end of semester show, and I just whipped that thing out in like 3 hours. Calling it for the night. It's 5:50 now and I got here like 10 a.m. I really need to just glaze it and get it done. The plates for the first time. kind of like surprised because I was like so convinced that there would be weirdness happening, and like it's so crazy just seeing them. But in the end, I'm really glad I stuck it out. I'm really proud of myself for most of the things I made in this class. I have lots of stuff that I like now and that I'm actually using, like this. And this. After taking this class, there are definitely things that I do differently next time. Hand build the bento plates, because whenever you throw something and then you hand build something and then you put that together, it dries differently and a lot of my plates have cracks on them. Account for shrinkage rate. Literally none of my candle holders can fit a candle, and that makes me very sad. I need to just like shave the candle down, honestly. I just haven't done that yet. But like, come on. Anyway, yes, account for shrinkage rate. Take breaks. You're a person. You're not a machine. It's okay. What got me through the class was just having a really clear vision on what I wanted. Like, I would just think about throwing a dinner party with my friends and using my pieces, and that like gave me the emotional investment, you know, to do the project. And yeah, with being 4 months into post-grad life, I feel like that now more than ever is like super important, because I feel like it's just really easy to feel like you're just kind of floating through life. And that's how I've kind of felt all summers, that I'm just like, what am I doing? What am I trying to do? But like, having a vision, knowing why you're trying to do something, and knowing how you want to feel, I feel like are 3 big takeaways that I want to continue to implement from that class to like now. I hope this was interesting for you guys, and that it was, you know, inspiring to know that if like I can go from making literally the worst pieces of garbage to like something cool, then you most definitely can as well. Thank you so much for watching. If you got this far, you are a real one. So comment down below a project that you'd like to commit to this next month, why you want to do it, and how you want to feel afterwards, so that I know that you made it till the end of the video. Like this video if you like this video, hit the subscribe button to see more content like this, and I will see you next time. I've loaded up my stuff from the ceramics department, and this is it. Today's the last day of college ever. I just presented my final, and yeah, just cleaning out the studios now. A little bittersweet, but also I'm like, damn, I'm ready for a break.